Okay, so we're gonna make the pot pie filling. So in here I have a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of parsley, a half a teaspoon of oregano, a quarter teaspoon of pepper and thyme each. And I'm gonna dump that in. And then in here in the pot I have one small onion chopped up. I have 2 cloves of garlic minced. I have 2 celery stalks minced, and I have 1 carrot minced. I'm going to saute that up. I've got about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. I'm going to turn my stove on and I'm going to saute that up on about medium heat. And then once all that becomes translucent, then I'm going to add in my stock and my chicken meat. Okay guys, so I just put in, I told you that I had the oil in there, and I went ahead and let all my veggies get translucent. They're nice and soft now. And then I added in a tablespoon of flour, just all-purpose flour, and I stirred that around good, and I'm letting that flour just toast a little bit, okay? And then in this bowl, well, it's actually already pretty toasted. In this bowl, I have a tablespoon of milk powder and a quarter cup of water. Now, this part right here, I don't want anybody to get stressed out about. If you don't have milk powder, that's okay. If you have milk, that's great. Use a quarter cup of milk. If you have almond milk, use a quarter cup of almond milk. All you're trying to do is make this a little bit more creamy. That's all we're trying to do. So whatever you have is totally fine. Use what you have, okay? This is quarantine cooking, so we're using what we have on hand. If you don't have any kind of milk or milk substitute at all, that's okay. You don't have to have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You can still make this. That's no big deal. Maybe you have a little butter you can throw in there instead. That's still a milk product. That's still going to add a little bit of creaminess. Okay? Alright. Now we're going to add in our chicken broth. I want you to see this. Watch this when I put this in here. That's bone broth. See how it's gelatinous like that? And now, it's really funny the first time I made this because my husband's looking at it and he's going, oh, what is that? What happened? I said, that's all the collagen. That's all the good stuff. People take supplements to get that. We're getting it for nothing. Just roasting up a chicken and making some broth. And the way that you get that is, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but when you did your project, probably like junior high, where you took the chicken bones and you put them in a jar of vinegar, and the next day they were like rubber. That's what's basically happening here, because when you put the vinegar in there, it's breaking the bone down, and that's the same thing that's happening here. The little bit of vinegar and lemon juice that we put in act as the acid, and they break down that bone just enough to leach out all of the nutrients and the collagen out of the bone. Okay, so we have about, let's say this is about 2.5 cups of broth in here. And I'm just stirring it. And on the bottom, you want to keep an eye on it when you're toasting your flour, because you don't want that to stick in the bottom of your pot. And then you're gonna add your, and if it's like a little tiny, perfectly okay. So I just stirred it up just a little bit and worked my way around the edges, and doing great. There's nothing stuck on the bottom there. So I added in my chicken. I added in 1 cup of chicken meat, and out of that chicken that I had roasted, look at all the meat that's left. And I've already made chicken salad, which I'll show you guys in a minute, and you'll see it in one of the photos in the beginning of the video. Chicken salad. I made 3 chicken, roasted red pepper, American cheese, and honey mustard sandwiches on the sourdough bread that I made. Yeah, so far, and we look at all the meat we still have left. Like, that's considerable. That's a lot of meat. So. Okay, so at this point, I had actually ended up adding an extra cup of chicken broth that brought us to 3.5 cups total. So what I ended up doing was, and then I added in my milk, and I ended up mixing up another quarter cup of water, and 2 more tablespoons of flour, okay? And I realize that that's raw, but it's not gonna affect anything. It's not gonna change anything. It's still gonna taste really good. And then at the very end, you're gonna wanna, if you have canned green beans or canned peas, that's when you're gonna wanna add in anything canned. You don't wanna do it before then because it's gonna get really super mushy on you. But we're at a point now where this has a really nice consistency. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside and let it cool just a little bit, and we're gonna get ready with our pie crust. So I've preheated my oven. It's gonna go up to 450. Now this is for my pie crust that I make from scratch, and at some point I will show you guys how to do it. So what I'm gonna do now is I have made up an egg wash, and you can make your egg wash a couple of different ways. Most people, like the traditional way, is to add in a couple tablespoons of milk or cream or half and half, and then crack your egg in. I'm just using water because I don't have any of that on hand, and that is going to be perfectly fine. So I have 2 tablespoons of water in here and 1 egg, and I just scramble it up good. And this is going to work just as good. And then I'm just brushing it. I just want to get it all over just the edges. You don't need to brush the bottom, just the edges of my crust. And then with my crust, I bake that on 450 for 10 to 15 minutes, just until it starts to show like a golden hue to it. Then I crank it down to 350, and I let it go for about, depends on the pie. If it's like an apple pie or something with fresh fruit in it, it's usually about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. If it is, and that is for something that has to like thicken up on its own. In this instance, it's probably going to be like 30 minutes because all I'm doing is cooking the crust. My filling is already cooked. So I don't have to worry about anything thickening. It's already thickened. So I am going to brush this off, and I will show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. And I'm going to pop it back in the freezer. And then what I had done ahead of time is in this bag, I have another crust, and that's the top layer crust. So when that crust thaws out, I'm going to unroll it and put my pie filling in, and I'm going to roll it over the top, and then I'm going to brush it as well, okay? So there is my pot pie. I brushed the bottom really good with the egg wash, and then I unrolled. I had it in one of those rolled up just like you'd get it at the store. And then I unrolled it, put it on top, cut a few holes, put the rest of the egg wash on top of there, and then I am going to pop this in the oven. I'll show you guys when it's done. Guys, I've got the pot pie going in the oven. And one thing you want to do too is when you're trying to do like a lot of cooking at once, or do up like a bunch of meals at once, you should just keep on plugging on. Like put your pot pie in, move on to the next thing. And because we're working with a whole chicken, I have lots of meals I want to put together. And that's what I'm going to do. So I have a piece of sourdough on the bottom. Then I have some American cheese. And now I'm going to put, all this is a tablespoon of honey and 2 tablespoons of mustard, yellow mustard. I'm going to put that over the top, okay? And then I'm going to put my roasted red peppers on. I'm going to put another slice of cheese on top of that. Putting the last piece of sourdough on top. And if you guys wanted to, you could make this a panini. You just put a heavy pan, like a cast iron, on top of that and let it really grill the bottom of it. That's how you would do it if you wanted to do a panini. And that is one good sandwich, let me tell you. And you know, if you don't like roasted peppers, leave them off. Or if you have something else you want to put on there, you can put some olives on there. You can put some tomatoes on there. Oh, there goes our pie. Here's this. Remember what I was saying when it just starts to get a little brown? Just starting to get a little brown. Now I'm going to turn it down to 350. And I'm going to let it go for like another 20 minutes. About the chicken salad. So this was 1 stalk of celery, 1 shredded carrot. I took 1 of the chicken breasts and diced it. 1 green onion minced. About 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. And celery salt and pepper, and that's all that's in here. And then I mix that up, and that is really tasty. And this is about 1/4 left of what I originally had. The breast made a ton of chicken salad, and my mom and I had 2 open-faced sandwiches on some pumpernickel that I had made for lunch the other day with some sliced, I think I had sliced tomato on there. I have a picture of it. I'll put it in the beginning of the video. Now with everything that we're making, I'm going to check back in. look at how much chicken we still have. It's crazy. We are getting so many meals out of this. And don't forget too that originally I had peeled off a bunch of the chicken meat that was like attached that I didn't get off when I was cutting the breasts off the first time. It was like still attached to the bone on the actual chicken. That was the meat that I used to make the first paninis for the grilled chicken with the cheese and the honey mustard. I used that meat to make the first 3. So this is actually the 4th sandwich that we're getting out of this same chicken. Grilled chicken and cheese sandwich with the honey mustard and the roasted red peppers is all done. It's nice and hot, still steaming. But that is such a good sandwich. So I'm going to wrap this up in a piece of, no Tilly, not for you. My dog's interested too. I'm going to wrap this up in a piece of parchment for my husband for lunch for tomorrow.